Today we'll be unboxing and reviewing in detail the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, one of the best entry-level commercial drones out there. We're excited to have the chance to test out this kit. This drone can be your gateway into a wide variety of commercial industries. Being that the harvest is pretty great and the laborers are few, those that can provide drone services with a system like this are going to be compensated very well. But first things first, let's open this case and go over the tools you have to perform the commercial jobs that you may want to take on. Alright, so when we open the case, the first thing we see is this paper here. This piece of paper details the items that we're going to find in the case. Ours are shifted slightly with cords and chargers in place of the extra batteries that come with the Fly More kit. Other than that, it looks like everything's about the same. However, everything's a little hard to see in the box, so let's fix that real quick. Alright, much better. Let's start with the DJI RC Pro Smart Controller. This controller has a ton of great features and we've absolutely loved using it on a wide variety of other drones. Don't worry that the sticks don't come pre-attached, I'm sure that's done just so nothing gets messed up in transportation. We'll twist them on in just a minute. This controller is really going to improve the ways and means that you can use this drone. We won't be doing any field tests of this part in particular, but according to DJI, you can still get video feed transmission from your drone up to 15 kilometers away with the smart controller. This controller has a couple other really cool features as well. You can download third-party apps on the controller. It really opens up a lot of possibilities. You can live stream through third-party apps like YouTube and Facebook right on the smart controller. And lastly, the battery on this controller is pretty good. You're looking at about 3 hours on a full charge. Moving on further, we've got our standard assortment of cables. Among these are our charging block, charging cable, and then a USB cable for firmware updates and downloads. As with most kits, DJI is kind enough to send replacement propellers. We've got about 6 here. And now that we've got those smaller things out the way, let's get to our cool attachments. Something unique that separates the Mavic 2 Enterprise from a lot of other drones in general is the swappable attachment ability on top of the aircraft. The RTK module hasn't come in just yet, but for now we have a speaker, spotlight, and strobe attachment which all have a ton of great uses. We're going to make a separate video to dive deeper into each of these different attachments and walk you through how and when you'd want to use them. But now, let's move on to the star of today's show, the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. This drone looks great on the outside. It comes with all the things that we would expect out of a DJI drone. We've got obstacle avoidance sensors all around. The design is sleek, it looks like a commercial grade drone. Especially when we view it from the front and take a good look at the cameras on this drone. Let's start with the visual camera. So this camera has a 1/2 inch CMOS sensor. The quality it provides is more comparable to a 12 megapixel camera that, thanks to something called a quad Bayer filter, can create 48 megapixel images. To keep the concept simple, the Bayer filter separates each pixel into 4 sections that individually gather light and when added together create a 48 megapixel image. The quality is still great, but it equates more to a 12 megapixel camera quality than a true 48 megapixel camera. When shooting in photo mode, you've got up to a 32 times zoom to work with. Using the visual camera, you can record both 4K and 1080p video at up to 30 frames per second. Something to note is that you won't have any digital zoom capabilities in 4K quality. You can zoom up to 4 times digitally when shooting 1080p, however. One more thing to mention before we move on, there is no manual control over exposure settings for this camera aside from tweaking the exposure value. This makes the drone a little easier to use for new pilots, I feel, as most industrial uses for this drone are more than taken care of in camera without the need to learn how to adjust exposure on each photo or video. We'll go over the features of this camera more in future videos, but for now, let's move on to the thermal camera. First things first, let's talk resolution. Something many people are pleased about is the major jump in quality from the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual. The resolution of 640 by 512 on the Enterprise Advanced is actually 4 times larger than what's found on the Enterprise Dual. It has a 30 Hz refresh rate, which if you didn't know, it's kind of like a thermal camera's frame rate. If the refresh rate was 9 Hz, like the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, it would refresh 9 times per second. With a refresh rate of 30 Hz, you get good clean footage without jumping or lagging. This thermal camera is radiometric and records all of that data for you to analyze within DJI's thermal analysis application. Before we move on, the color palettes available for thermal photos and videos include White Hot, Black Hot, Rainbow 1, Iron Red, Arctic, Fulgurite, Hot Iron, Rainbow 2, Tint, and Medical. Now that we've covered everything that comes with the Enterprise kit, let's talk about the opportunities available to you. Being that this drone has the ability to attach an RTK module, there's not a lot of services that it can't perform. Here's a sample list. It's by no means all-inclusive. The applications for this one drone are more numerous than the ones that we're even aware of, and new applications for drones like this are emerging every single day. This drone can land you projects with first responders, doing construction monitoring, thermal and visual asset inspections, power lines and infrastructure inspections, solar farms, HVAC and roof inspections, search and rescue, livestock monitoring, forestry, and many, many more. Your personal experience and skill set is going to play a large part in deciding which market that you'd like to serve, but we're going to cover in detail one that we believe has the shortest learning curve, or one of the shortest, and can provide a quick opportunity for you to recoup your initial investment. So without further ado, let's run a roof inspection. It doesn't take too much for a new pilot to enter this industry. The capture process for this work is pretty simple, and there's a strong demand for pilots that can perform the job of inspecting and assessing roofs faster for the inspection company and safer than the normal method. If you have a background knowledge in inspecting HVAC equipment already, then all the better, but you don't need that background in order to get paid for drone collection work. Most HVAC companies have technicians and specialists who can analyze the data as you collect it. You bring value that most companies don't have at their disposal. Not everyone is a commercial drone pilot, and not everyone who's a commercial drone pilot has access to a thermal camera drone. Data collection for HVAC and roof inspection jobs is generally pretty simple. Our mock inspection will walk you through what a simple roof collection job would look like. So we're out on site now, and we'll be inspecting a commercial roof with both our thermal and vision cameras. Taking a lot of pictures is great, and some clients may need only a few specified shots, but on a larger roof like this, a client will likely want or could benefit from having an orthomosaic of the roof. How detailed and accurate you go with this will be up to the client, and it's going to vary on every shoot depending on their needs. But to make a basic orthomosaic without high detail, we're going to shoot for around 40% overlap. I'm going to speed through the collection part, but simply put, I'm going to fly up above the roof, look down 90 degrees, and traverse across the roof while taking photos. Once our top downs are done, we're going to come further out and take pictures looking down on the roof at about a 45-degree angle. We'll take these pictures following an orbit pattern around the building. Lastly, before you're done, it always helps to get a few wide-out shots showing the building from a few angles. Once this basic data collection is done, we can turn on our thermal sensor and take a closer look. With our thermal sensor, we can quickly see a lot of things that our eyes couldn't see before. We can visually see where heat is being lost, we can see water spots and any leaks that may or may not be present in piping under the roof or in HVAC equipment resting on top of it. Now's a good time to bring up something important to remember about photo capture while you're in zoom modes. You can zoom in on equipment in the app and take a picture, but your picture will not capture this way. Your picture is going to capture whatever 1x zoom shows in your environment. So if you take a picture at 32 times, it won't log what you see at zoomed in scale, but rather a normal picture at 1x zoom. This applies to both thermal and visual pictures. You can crop in on pictures after the fact, but the biggest benefit for the zoom function is going to be visual assessment. You can take pictures still, but keep in mind you may want to get closer if it's safe to do so, that way you won't have to crop in too much on images after the fact. Alright, so at a basic level, that's what a roof collection would look like. It isn't too complicated, and you can absolutely partner with an expert to provide knowledge where you lack it if that's the case, unless you already know the business well. Drones are a great tool, and they can be used to help you make a lot of money, but before you can make money as a drone pilot, you have to earn your Part 107. For those who don't know what this is, it's the test that you have to take to become a certified pilot. Once you pass that test, you receive a Part 107 license that gives you the ability to legally earn money as a drone pilot. Without one, you can't fly a drone and receive compensation of any kind. To pass this test, you'll need to understand a few topics that can get pretty complicated, especially if you don't have an aviation background. Most people have never been taught to read a sectional chart, a weather report, or any of the other diagrams and figures that you're expected to on test day. We were in this position 5 years ago studying for the Part 107, not sure where to start or what we even needed to learn. But after passing our exams, we felt there had to be a better way, and so we went to work creating it. To this date, we've been fortunate to help hundreds of pilots earn their licenses, and that number is growing by the day. We use our commercial experience to teach our students how to earn their wings and become profitable pilots using entry-level systems to the commercial ones we just covered, and well beyond that. If you'd like to become a certified pilot, we'd be honored to mentor you to and through achieving this goal. Just head to the link in the description below. If you have any more questions about becoming a pilot or about the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, please let us know.